At my family party, I discovered a hidden truth. They revealed why I wasn't invited for 10 years. Lucy Jones gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white as she navigated the winding dirt road leading to her grandparents' sprawling ranch. Each bump in the road seemed to amplify the internal chaos brewing within her. 10 years. 10 years of avoiding reunions filled with laughter and memories of her late grandmother, who once encouraged her artistic dreams. Guilt and reluctance gnawed at her as she recalled the last bitter words exchanged with her father, a man who couldn't understand her passion for paint and canvas. Now, as the sun blistered down on the Texas plains, anxiety coursed through her veins, battling her longing for connection. Pulling into the driveway, she was met with the sight of her cousins, sun-kissed and ebullient, their laughter ringing like melodies she once cherished. They were busy exchanging stories while the grill sputtered nearby, sending wafts of barbecue into the air. But Lucy stood apart, her heart a heavy stone, as she felt the veneer of isolation drape over her like a shroud. She forced herself to join them, exchanging awkward pleasantries, but the overwhelming sense of being an outsider swallowed her whole. The camaraderie that used to envelop her felt like a distant, fading song. When twilight began to drape its cloak over the festivities, the family talent show beckoned. Something within her stirred, tugging at the remnants of her suppressed creativity. Against her better judgment and the echoing voices in her head warning her to retreat, Lucy stepped forward. Revealing a painting dedicated to her grandmother, a vibrant swirl of color, emotion spilled onto the canvas, she bared her heart, revealing struggles and dreams intertwined like threads in a tapestry. The audience responded, emotions shifted, and for an instant, the boundaries of estrangement began to slip away. Before she could bask in that small solace, her brother Brad commandeered the attention, announcing a secret that fractured the tentative peace. Their grandmother, it turned out, had left Lucy an art studio, a hidden sanctuary of creation that had remained secret for years. The news reverberated through her, igniting confusion, hope, and the bitter sting of her father's disapproval. Questions surfaced. Would this studio finally serve as a bridge between the family she missed and the artist she feared to embrace? But the underlying tension erupted when her relatives started arguing about ambition and sacrifice. Voices clashed, revealing long-buried grievances that sent Lucy's heart racing with despair. She felt the weight of her family's expectations pressing down like a heavy blanket, suffocating her ability to breathe. Was reclaiming her life's passion a betrayal? Was the fierce determination to pursue art selfish, given her family's legacy in medicine? Would confronting them reveal the truth she desperately wanted, or shatter the fragile connections she yearned to rebuild? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of a screen. Now, let's continue. With every raised voice, Lucy felt her own uncertainties deepen. Could she find the courage to speak her truth amid the chaos? The fear of rejection tightened around her like a vice. As arguments morphed into passionate debates, her mind raced with scenarios of confrontation, longing for resolution but trapped in a whirlpool of doubt. Would her artistic aspirations alienate her forever from the family she loved? Lucy stood at the brink, her heart racing, pulse pounding, unsure if the light flickering within her would illuminate a new path or dim beneath the weight of family loyalty. Lucy stood frozen, her mind a chaotic storm of thoughts as the debate raged around her. The applause from her painting slowly faded into a backdrop of increasing tension. She felt as if she was watching a shipwreck unfold, the desperate actions of family members colliding, making her desperately question where she belonged. Amid the fray, her father's voice emerged, a steady force cutting through the noise. It's about time we prioritized what truly matters, our family's legacy, he argued, his words laced with conviction. Legacy. The word gnawed at Lucy. twisting in her gut. It was a heavy term, a declaration of loyalty, and a burden she had felt for too long. Could she ever escape the weight of expectation that accompanied it? As her brother Brad chimed in, advocating for balance between ambition and duty, her aunt countered with a fierce rebuttal. "Some passions are more important than jobs they can't support," she snarled. Each jab sent ripples of discomfort throughout Lucy, yet with every argument, a flicker of resolve began to rise within her. Was it time to claim her identity as an artist, to assert her passion in a space overcrowded by the family's medical achievements? Ambition doesn't mean abandoning family, Lucy found herself whispering to the ground, her voice almost lost in the din. But then again, would speaking louder fill her with the confidence she needed to announce her desire to pursue art? The thought of confrontation sent her pulse racing. It felt like standing at the edge of a precipice, the wind teasing her balance. Suddenly, the quietest voice of all broke through her grandmother's old friend, a simple woman with calloused hands and a worn face that exuded warmth. "Art gives life color," she said softly, yet firmly, capturing everyone's attention. "And it isn't selfish to chase after the colors that resonate with your soul." There was a resonance in her words, a clarity that challenged the noise and chaos. Lucy felt a flicker of hope, but it was tempered by the familiar weight of familial ties. What if she stood up? What if she recounted the years of pain and the joy that art had brought her? Would she be met with understanding or scorn? Fear gripped her. The risk felt monumental. Yet, as her heart raced, Lucy realized that the circle of family needed her to be authentic. They needed a reminder of who she was beyond their expectations, just as she needed to redefine her relationship with them. She took a step forward, heartbeat pounding in her ears, drawing strength from the nostalgic echoes of laughter that once filled this ranch, fueled by her grandmother's encouraging smile. Lucy was no longer just an outsider cloaked in sorrow. Each argument swirling around her fostered a brewing tempest within. "You've kept me at arm's length for too long. I'm not just your daughter, a potential degree, nor just an artist lost in your shadows." The silence following her words was suffocating. Every pair of eyes turned towards her. It was a moment suspended in time. Would they see the determination burning bright behind her fear? Was she finally ready to advocate for her dreams where she felt most unmoored? Before she could process the reactions, her father's face darkened, nostrils flaring with frustration. Would she be met with his dismissal or an openness she never anticipated? In that moment, Lucy understood. Stepping into her identity meant risking the very foundation of her relationships. As the tension crackled in the charged air, Lucy held her breath uncertainly, the next words thickening her throat. "I want to embrace my art and find my place in this family too." Would this declaration of her truth set a bridge, or ignite a deeper, irremediable rift in the family? The reactions lingered, waiting to unfold as Lucy felt the weight of both acceptance and confrontation loom large above her. The silence rolled on, stretching into an uncanny stillness, as if the air itself quaked under the weight of Lucy's words. Her father, visibly taken aback, seemed to wrestle with his thoughts, each muscle in his jaw tightening. Just to think that he might have to confront the enigma of his daughter's passion imposed an unfamiliar ache. Lucy's heart raced, each beat echoing the simmering tension around her. She had taken the plunge, yet with every second that followed, doubt crept up through her resolve, fracturing the boldness she had conjured. Had she gone too far? Had the aching desire to be seen eclipsed the compassion for their traditions? A flicker of hope intertwined with anxiety. Each member of her family stood statically, caught in the web of their own judgments. Her brother Brad moved first. With a soft, conciliatory gesture, he leaned forward in his seat. "Lucy, we've always supported your talents. It's just, the family has focused so much on where we've come from." His voice trembled slightly, as though the weight of the conversation threatened his composure. "It's about steering our future." Those words dug into her. The future wasn't just theirs. "But my future matters too," she implored, the conviction rising again. "I can't keep suffocating my dreams under a banner that doesn't represent me. I want to forge my own path. Her father's eyes narrowed, a quick flash of anger overshadowed by something softer flicker of understanding behind his frustration. You think this is easy for us? To see you stepping away from our family's reputation, away from all that we built? This legacy runs deep. Legacy. The heaviness behind that word surged anew, the weight pressing upon her chest. Lucy felt as if she were navigating a dark ocean, waves crashing against the fortress of familial loyalty. I know, she replied, her voice quietening, a thread of tension palpable. But what if it drags me under? A ripple of murmurs followed within the gathering, tensions shifting slightly as the conversation evolved, moving past pure opposition now. One by one, their mutual concerns morphed into dialogue. Her aunt's sharp rebuttals softened, her posture relaxing as she finally let down her defenses, noting, "Pursuing art is a noble choice. It just pains me to see you struggle." Lucy realized the deeper truth her family had failed to articulate. Their concerns stemmed from love masked as fear, an instinctual aversion to vulnerability. She sought to solidify their understanding of her ambitions. "I'm not abandoning my family. I'm simply searching for my own voice in all this noise." Encouraged by this shift, Lucy felt a dawning clarity take hold. Each family member was not merely a projection of their titles and roles, but people bearing their own layers of realization about identity. Perhaps they were as afraid of losing her as she was of wilting under their expectations. As the conversation blossomed, each family member began to share stories of their own personal struggles, moments in their lives where they felt pulled between duty and passion. Layers of vulnerability were stripped away. Younger cousins talked tepidly about unfulfilled artistic dreams while her father hesitated, revealing a crude sketch he had plastered away like an untold secret. Grounded in this shared existence, Lucy found not only strength, but new insights into her own aspirations. Perhaps advocating for her dreams was not so disconnected from their history, but rather an evolution of it. However, realization brought with it introspection and uneasiness, sending her glancing nervously at her father's reaction. What repercussions would arise from this newfound honesty? Had she only scratched the surface of deeper complexities within their relationships? The trajectory of the conversation changed, and the implications were further beyond what Lucy had anticipated. As words unraveled between them, the shadows of fear scattered, but a new apprehension crept in. How far could she push before breaking the ties entirely? A still red thread of legacy lingering in the background. The confrontation had merely awakened awareness. The true challenge lay ahead, facing individual choices in the wake of this newfound clarity. Lucy felt herself caught at another precipice, this one leading toward an uncertain rift, but also toward reclamation. Would she plunge into the depths of familial discord to forge her identity anew, or could she construct a bridge to understanding, one that allowed both her art and family to coexist in harmony? As her father clenched his fists slightly, the distance between her vision and his expectations surged like an impending storm. The moment of truth loomed ahead. The moment of truth had come. As the tension hung between them, Lucy took a deep breath, deciding that now was not the time for retreat. The waves of her father's apprehension and her own fear crashed around them, but she sought the stillness within. Each heartbeat quickened her resolve. The moment of truth demanded her courage. "Dad," she pushed on, her voice barely above a whisper. "What did you want from me? What do you see when you look at me?" The vulnerability in her question sliced through the lingering unease like a knife. She needed to know how much of his fear stemmed from his own unfulfilled desires. Her father's gaze faltered, and for the first time, the fortress he'd built around his heart showed cracks. "I wanted you to be proud of our family," he admitted, the weight of generations pressing down on his shoulders. "I poured everything into this legacy because I thought it would give you stability, a place where you'd always belong." Stability. The term resonated painfully with Lucy, an echo of her upbringing that felt both like a warm embrace and a suffocating chain. "I know you love me, but that love can't trap me in a life I don't choose," she replied, her determination anchoring her. She sensed that a conversation they had danced around for years was finally on the surface. As if awakening from a dream, her brother shifted forward again. What if we didn't have to choose between family and passion? He held his hands up, seeking calm. If we could somehow combine them, we could support you while still honoring what we've built. It doesn't have to be an either-or. Lucy pondered this. It was a concession she hadn't considered. But what would that even look like? A thread of curiosity wove through her doubts. The thought of intertwining her art with family values sparked a flicker of growth within her. A newfound dialogue unfurled. They began to brainstorm ideas where her artistic pursuits could be celebrated as part of their legacy rather than dismantling it. Ideas flowed, each suggestion building momentum. What if she showcased her work in the family's local spaces? Or even created artwork that reflected their history, a blend of the old and the new? As the discussions turned from consequence to possibility, Lucy caught fragments of excitement in their voices, and for the first time, envisioning a shared path didn't seem entirely out of reach. Through this honest exchange, she uncovered a hidden truth about her family. They were not just protectors of the past, they were, like her, still learning to shape their collective future. Yet as exhilaration coursed through her, shadows of doubt still lingered. Would they truly embrace the synthesis, or would there still be aspects of expectation and tradition tugging relentlessly at her resolve? The balance felt as precarious as walking a tightrope stretched above a chasm. The intensity of the moment was palpable as Lucy's father finally said, "I've always wanted you to be something great, Lucy. But I need to understand what great means to you." His admission sang with sincerity, but Lucy felt the pressure of generations past still lingering in the room, a ghost she needed to confront. With a surge of realization, she understood that in shifting their perspective, she was also changing hers. The rift that both terrified and excited her had become a bridge, but how to finalize that connecting path remained unclear. Would her family truly adapt and embrace this blending of identities, or would they cling to their legacy, resisting the tide of change? The answers felt elusive, yet each heartbeat grew steadier in her chest, emboldened by the possibility of transformation. As the conversation deepened and their collective hopes started forming a tangible reality, Lucy was hit by another wave of reflection. Could she truly reclaim her identity without forfeiting her family's bond? Would they navigate the complexities of her dream while nurturing their history? At that moment, the conversation paused as her mother stepped forward, her features etched with concern. "Lucy," she began cautiously, eyes searching. "What if there's a reason you haven't been able to connect with your art until now? What if it's tied to something deeper?" The question hung heavy in the air. What did that mean? What hidden truths lay beneath her unspoken fears? Lucy felt an unsettling mixture of curiosity and dread, knowing that whatever waited below would demand as much bravery as the journey so far. The looming answers called to her. The tide of self-discovery pulled her in deeper. The following morning, Lucy woke to sunlight streaming through her curtains, illuminating the sketches strewn across her desk. The vivid colors and chaotic lines spoke of a yearning that she could no longer ignore. Determination replaced her uncertainty. She felt the need to confront both her artistic block and her family's expectations. Sitting at her desk, she methodically organized the papers, each piece a fragment of her past struggles. She couldn't help but notice how some sketches bore a striking resemblance to the family history she had spent years trying to escape. Monuments of her childhood, family gatherings, celebrations, traditional dishes served with her grandmother's meticulous recipes, all wrapped in a beautiful yet tangled web of expectation. Yet, the more she examined them, the more she understood that these works held a story. She had overlooked a narrative about identity, roots, and belonging that she had been concurrently running from and clinging to. The weight of her mother's question echoed in her mind. Why hadn't she been able to connect with her art? She realized now that perhaps the root lay in her resistance to embrace those very threads of her family legacy that she sought to redefine. With renewed focus, Lucy grabbed her sketchbook and began to draft ideas that merged her familial elements with her artistic ambitions. What if she created a series that told the stories of her family's struggles and victories, but through her lens? A blend of their rich history with her personal style could resonate with a wider audience. The thought thrilled her, igniting a flame of creativity she hadn't felt in months. However, the boundaries of courage lay ahead. She knew presenting this fusion to her family would require a careful balance of vulnerability and strength. While she felt prepared to dive into the challenge, she dreaded their possible reaction. Would they perceive it as an intrusion into their traditions, or might they recognize the sincerity behind her vision? After finishing an initial draft of potential pieces, she decided to gather her family later that afternoon. It was time to share not just her ideas, but the evolution of her understanding, her transformation from a woman torn between worlds to one eagerly seeking a path that embraced both. When they finally gathered, Lucy's heart raced. She had crafted a narrative that expressed her struggles and their influence on her journey. Drawing upon the very elements they had valued for generations, she announced, "This work is a way of honoring our family's history while allowing my art to speak my truth." Her voice, unconventional and steady, sought to bridge the gaps in understanding. As she unveiled her piece's colorful interpretations of family portraits, abstract renderings of their ancestral home, she watched their reactions closely. Each furrowed brow and quiet exchange felt significant. Her father scrutinized the colors, her mother's silent nods encouraged her further, while even her brother offered a subtle smile of approval. The moment felt electric, yet as the dust settled, a palpable silence fell over the room. Lucy's instinct flared with uncertainty. Had she done enough to shift the narrative? Then her father spoke. "Your creations tell stories we've never articulated. It's as if you've lifted our experiences out of the shadows." His voice bore sincerity, but she sensed the weight of his realization. He recognized the revelation but remained tethered to his fears. This voice of acknowledgement was a lifeline, but it also left Lucy pondering. While her work had begun to resonate, the conversation that needed to follow would require more than acceptance. It demanded an open dialogue about the truths she had only begun to uncover. In that charged atmosphere, her mother shared an unexpected perspective. "Lucy, what if our reluctance to let you fully explore was because we never communicated our own struggles?" The admission hung heavily between them, a mirror reflecting not only Lucy's journey, but her family's hidden battles. That revelation struck her like thunder, shattering the remnants of her self-doubt. Could their fears also be linked to the very wounds they had collectively avoided addressing? What other truths lay in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled? The implications of her mother's words electrified Lucy. She realized that this exchange could be a turning point, not just for herself, but for her entire family. The fear of opening old wounds and confronting their shared past loomed large, yet it also held the key to their transformation. What lay beyond this moment of understanding? Could their past become a stepping stone toward greater unity? Were they all prepared to uncover the layers that had kept them apart? Lucy felt the thrill of an impending discovery matching the anxiety pulsing through her. The path she needed to tread was fraught with uncertainty, yet clarity began to blossom amidst the chaos, an invitation for her family, for herself, to step beyond inherited cycles and embrace an evolving legacy. As the air between them thickened, she recognized they were ready to dive deeper, to explore the river of hidden truths that flowed beneath the surface of their lives, which could either bind them closer or widen the divide. Would their shared fears lead to catharsis, or would the revelations tear apart the fragile threads they had begun to weave together? The conversation hung like a dense fog, the words exchanged now echoing in the corners of the room. The revelation had sparked an urgency in Lucy. The shadows of unspoken fears intertwined with their familial history dimmed the light of connection they had begun to forge. She grasped tightly at the moment, her resolve stronger than ever. Closing her eyes briefly, she sought to anchor herself, allowing the weight of her mother's admission to settle as she prepared to navigate the depths of their past together. Her father hesitated, the silence stirring seeds of introspection. "What do you mean by our struggles, Lucy?" he asked, his brow furrowed, leading with cautious curiosity. Lucy leaned into the moment, framing her thoughts with intention. Each family gathering depicted in her art now served as a backdrop for deeper narrative silent battles softened by smiles and laughter. "I think we've all been carrying burdens," she began, her voice steadying as she spoke from a place of authenticity. "In painting our family history, I've realized that we often hide our true colors beneath layers of expectation." The room's atmosphere shifted, and Lucy could feel her family's tension transform into a reflection that sparked a flicker of readiness. Her mother's eyes shimmered, caught in a dance between recognition and vulnerability. "You have to understand that at ISNT always easy to speak up. There have been moments when we felt we had to shelter each other from pain." Her words danced on shaky ground but carried the weight of years unvocally shared. Lucy sensed the delicate excavation of buried emotions in this exchange. "And maybe in doing so, we inadvertently created walls. Walls that made it hard for me to approach art honestly because I was burdened by our unsaid truths." She felt the urge to reach out, to pull her family closer into a collective understanding. "I want to share the parts of us that matter, the joy and the struggle, because these pieces reflect not only who we are now but also who we can become." The realization hung in the air, charging the space with promise and vulnerability. Her brother shifted slightly, a pinprick of light forming in his expression. Perhaps he had felt the same uncertainty, the same silence that Lucy had grappled with. "What if," he began, his voice cracking with latent emotion, "we all try to share what we've kept inside? What would that look like?" Lucy marveled at the suggestion, the potential for dialogue pushing her forward. "It could start with stories. Maybe we can create a project together sharing our histories, documenting our regrets and triumphs. We could build a narrative that unearths our legacy instead of allowing it to remain buried." Her father's eyes darted toward her sketches once more, the luminosity of their colors suddenly seeming brighter amidst their shared contemplation. "You're asking us to be part of your art, Lucy." It felt as though he was trying to grasp the enormity of her proposal. A flicker of fear crossed his face, but it was quickly paired with intrigue. "I might not know how to articulate everything we've gone through, but I'd be willing to try." Lucy's heart soared, but with that openness came the weight of responsibility. What if delving into these deep-seated experiences unearthed old resentments or painful memories? Was she prepared to witness her family's truths, painful as they might be? And if they committed to this endeavor, how could she ensure everyone felt safe enough to share? She forced the breath to calm her racing pulse, assessing their expressions. With each nod, uncertain yet hopeful, they seemed to step towards something transformative. "I think we can create a narrative that is not just mine but ours," she said, sealing her conviction. "It would redefine our legacy." Lucy sensed that the true challenge lay ahead. As they began to plot the course of their collective journey through art, she felt the threads of their separation unravel, but the fear of confronting painful truths loomed larger than ever. The room buzzed with an electric hesitation. Was this the dawn of a deeper relationship or a venture that risked fracturing everything they had built? As Lucy looked around their familiar living space, she realized those sacred walls had sheltered secrets that could either tear them apart or lead to a catharsis she yearned for. Suddenly her phone vibrated, breaking the moment. Glancing down, she saw a message from an old friend, igniting an entirely different inquiry. "I just heard about a showcase for emerging artists. They're looking for unique perspectives. Want to apply together?" Her heart raced again, this time with a blend of excitement and apprehension. Was this the perfect opportunity to retain her artistic edge while honoring her family's voice? Or would it be just another pressure, another expectation layered over the already complex narrative she sought to create? With choices converging, Lucy found herself at a personal crossroads, balancing the unveiling of her family's history while embracing the challenge of presenting herself to the external world. How could she mesh personal relationships with professional aspirations without losing herself in the process? The path ahead seemed daunting, but she was no longer the hesitant woman standing before her sketches. Lucy resolved to explore every layer of her identity, embracing both the art she wanted to create and the family stories that demanded to be told. The air was thick with possibilities, and for the first time, uncertainty felt like a companion guiding her towards something monumental. Would she have the courage to enter that showcase and confront her fears head-on, while risking family vulnerability in the artistic exploration? The journey toward a greater self began, but at what cost? Lucy stood at the intersection of her two worlds, feeling the pull of familial ties and the urgency of her artistic aspirations. The invitation to the showcase seemed more than mere opportunity. It felt like a crucible, a test of her newly forged resolve. The prospect of melding her family's narrative with her art swirled in her mind, two entities intertwined yet distinctly separate, each with its own demands and voices. But as she replayed her family's conversation in her head, the echoes of her mother's and brother's words resonated deeply. What if this artistic endeavor became an extension of their shared commitment? What if it was more than just her art, it was their collective healing? The time felt right for them to crack open the familial facade that had sheltered her for so long. Yet, even as excitement bubbled beneath the surface, a lingering doubt prickled at her heart. Was she prepared for the revelations that might surface? What if her family wasn't as ready as she was? These questions stirred within her, creating a contradiction, her artistic desire clashing with the fear of unearthing family strife. "I need to take action," she murmured to herself, pacing back and forth through her living room, sketches piled on the table like a chaotic mountain of potential. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the canvas of her life. She picked up a brush, its handle cool against her palm, grounding her. This tool, familiar yet powerful, could create bridges or widen chasms. She flicked the brush against the palette, vibrant colors dancing as they collided. Each stroke felt liberating, a manifestation of her swirling emotions. With every swirl of paint, Lucy became acutely aware of her evolving identity, not just as a daughter, but as an artist determined to reshape her narrative. Perhaps this showcase wasn't merely a platform, it was a lifeline, a chance to illustrate the very fabric of who they were and who they could become. But as she approached the canvas, uncertainties crept back in like the insistent tide. What if her family resisted this journey? What if they viewed it as a betrayal instead of a merging of their collective truth? The personal stakes felt heightened. Delving into their histories might not just ignite catharsis, but could also bring to light painful memories they had each chosen to forget. Her phone buzzed again, jolting her from reflection. Another message from her friend, who had already started mapping out ideas for the showcase. They wanted to brainstorm together, dive into what made their perspectives unique. It was tempting, this allure of collaboration, but Lucy hesitated. The weight of her family's history loomed larger. Taking a deep breath, she texted back, suggesting they meet at the cafe down the street. She craved the firm ground of another artist's insights without the expectations of revealing her family's turmoil too soon. This choice felt empowering, a step toward forging connections in the broader artistic world while protecting her family's intimate story for that moment. As she closed her sketchbook, she caught sight of the empty space left on the last page. It beckoned to her like an unfilled void, eagerly waiting to capture the tumultuous narrative she and her family would embark upon. Would she be brave enough to bring her family's truths to high-definition life in her artwork? Or would she overload her canvas with colors of fear, hesitation, and disappointment? The thought gnawed at her, a persistent reminder that progress often comes hand in hand with uncertainty. In that silence, Lucy understood that choices awaited her at every corner: artistic expression, family dynamics, personal integrity, and external perception. The deeply personal journey she was on demanded acknowledgement of both splendor and sorrow. Now was the moment to take the leap, both for herself and her family. Her phone vibrated again. This time it was a calendar reminder for the submission deadline of the showcase entry. A rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins. Wouldn't there be strength in vulnerability? Perhaps she needed to share her fears with her family, to open up the dialogue she envisioned. With renewed determination, Lucy made a decision. She wouldn't let hesitation paralyze her growth. That night, she planned to gather her family again. to talk about not just the shared project, but to address the fears they each carried, giving them voice through the art they decreate together. As she looked around her transformed studio, the walls now reverberating with possibility, Lucy felt a thrill of anticipation. Would this path lead to a pain she feared, or was it the key to finally uncovering their collective legacy? She could feel that the moment of truth was fast approaching, and every brushstroke in her canvas would draw them closer to it. The next chapter was waiting to be painted, but she needed to summon the courage to unveil the hidden truths. Would they be ready for it? As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lucy found herself standing in front of the cafe, the warm glow spilling from the windows like a beacon. Her heart raced as she stepped inside, the clinking of cups and low murmur of conversation enveloping her. This was not merely a casual meeting. This was a strategic rendezvous, a moment to prop her burgeoning sense of identity against the backdrop of her artistic ambitions. Her friend Ava was already seated, eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Lucy, I've been thinking about our project. Let us push the boundaries," she said, gesturing excitedly to her own sketches spread across the small table. Lucy sat down, fighting the impulse to spill her tumultuous feelings about her family dynamics and the potential for artistic creation. Instead, she opted for a lighter approach. "I love your ideas," she said, looking at a colorful sketch depicting layers of overlapping emotions. As they exchanged ideas, Lucy couldn't shake the internal chatter. Would exploring her family's wounds be worth the risk? Ava's artistic perspective flowed like the coffee they sipped, igniting excitement within her. For a moment, she let herself imagine blending their styles and visions. It felt invigorating, almost liberating. But the longer they chatted, the more her thoughts returned to her family. The unspoken fears of confrontation lingered, like an unfinished melody, always present. How could she express her family's fractured tapestry through her art? "Are you good?" Ava's voice broke through her reverie, concern knitting her brows together. "You seem somewhere else." "I'm just thinking about the showcase," Lucy said, forcing a smile.
"It's a lot to unpack."
"Tell me what's on your mind," Ava pressed gently, sensing deeper currents. Lucy hesitated but then decided to share her vision, her desire to involve her family in a way that felt both exhilarating and daunting. Her heart pounded as she spoke about seeking healing through art, the narrative swirling within her family that she wished to portray. As Lucy spoke, she felt a familiar tightness in her chest. The fear of rejection began to tighten its grip. Would her family see this not as an act of love, but as exposure? Ava listened closely, eyes wide with understanding. "Have you thought about how you'll approach them?" Ava asked, her voice low. "What if they resist?" Lucy swallowed hard. "That's the thing, I assent to it. I want to help them. But I also worry, what if they perceive it as betrayal? Art is about vulnerability, Lucy. It's a way to navigate your own feelings, and sometimes it brings others along without them even knowing they need it," Ava replied. Lucy nodded slowly, weighing her friend's words. Vulnerability, an act so terrifying yet potentially transformative. The thought shimmered like the layers of paint on her palette, chaotic, yet beautiful. Back in her studio later that night, surrounded by half-finished canvases, Lucy felt trapped in a paradox of anticipation and dread. With a brush poised above the canvas, she sensed the tide of her emotions rising. Could she truly capture the entwined history they shared? And if she did, would it alienate them, or bring them closer? The cacophony of uncertainty swirled around her as she poured colors onto the canvas. Each slap of paint echoed her internal conflict, reflecting her fears and aspirations. But instead of hiding, she allowed herself to confront the murkiness that lay beneath the surface. Between strokes, her mind drifted to her family's unresolved truths. Their past shaped who they were, but painting a demanded transparency, a rawness she hadn't fully embraced. What might surface when she laid bare her family's hidden wounds? With every decision on the canvas, a sense of impending confrontation loomed. What if her family resisted engaging with the past? What if they saw her efforts as a betrayal that rippled throughout their carefully constructed facade? As night deepened, Lucy paused, realizing the urgency of her internal dialogue. Rising from her easel, she reached for her phone to check the time. The plan to gather. Her family lingered like a thread she was afraid to pull. Discussing unspoken fears was one thing, but would they be ready to face the shadows lurking in their shared history? The process of creation morphed into something bigger, intertwining her growth as an artist with her role as a daughter. A new revelation struck her, grounding her once more in the dilemma at hand. The necessity of the conversation hung in the balance. With her heart racing, she decided to draft a message inviting her family for dinner. They needed to address their fears together, bridging the gap she felt every time she picked up her brush. As she hit send, adrenaline coursed through her veins. Tomorrow could unravel their bonds or weave them tightly together. Would this be the breakthrough she longed for, or the beginning of a fracture she couldn't mend? The canvas waited, colors begging to be released, mirroring her tumult within. Would she find courage to face her family as truth? Or would she allow her fears to paralyze them all? The room pulsed with the weight of choice, and the moment of reckoning steadily approached. The next day arrived with a palpable tension draping the air like a mist. Lucy stood in her kitchen, the warm glow of morning sunlight flattering the worn countertops, contrasting sharply with the swirling uncertainty brewing inside her. She meticulously chopped vegetables. Each click of the knife against the cutting board felt like a countdown to something monumental. Her mind raced as she prepared for the dinner that could either reinforce their fractured family dynamics or serve as the catalyst for healing. As she set the table, she could hardly comprehend the significance of this simple act and invitation, a gathering, the potential unveiling of hidden truths. Each plate carefully placed was an attempt to symbolically lay the groundwork for dialogue she desperately hoped would ensue. She had envisioned this moment countless times, but now that it was here, the dread hovered heavily. Her phone buzzed, startling her. A response from her mother, tense yet optimistic. Looking forward to it, the reply stood in stark contrast to the years of silence. What did the past weeks of distance mean for their future interactions? Could the act of sharing a meal become a bridge over the chasms that had opened in her heart? The clock ticked menacingly, magnifying her unease. Would they be able to engage in meaningful conversation? Or had time dulled their willingness to confront their truths? Each second sprinted past, taunting her with possibilities she hardly dared envision. As the hour approached, Lucy threw an anxious glance at her reflection in the window. The confident woman she aspired to be seemed at odds with the quaking girl battling a whirlwind of fear inside. Taking a deep breath, she reminded herself of Ava's words about vulnerability. It could transform not just her art, but refresh the bonds with her family. Finally, the doorbell rang. An electric jolt raced through her as she opened the door to reveal them. Her mother, brother, and sister standing shoulder to shoulder, expressions a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Their eyes flickered with unspoken sentiments, mirroring Lucy's own swirling doubts. "Come in," she welcomed them, forcing a smile as she stepped aside. The living room felt charged with expectation as they settled at the table she had so carefully arranged. The aroma of roasted chicken mingling with the scent of nervous energy hung in the air. As they began to eat, the initial awkwardness was nearly suffocating. Forcing small talk felt futile against the backdrop of unaddressed grievances. Lucy's hands danced around her utensils, her thoughts racing past the mundane. She braced herself for the right moment to breach the surface tension. "What do you think about my art these days?" she posed, eyes darting between her siblings, gauging interest, or perhaps searching for the right spark to ignite a genuine dialogue. "It's nice," her brother replied flatly, a phrase that felt like a wall rather than encouragement. Something twisted in Lucy's chest. The weight of years spent tiptoeing around feelings was palpable. Swallowing hard, she decided to lean into the discomfort. "I think you'd appreciate it more if you knew the stories behind them." At that, everyone's gaze sharpened. She had thrown her courage into the ring, sparking intrigue, yet more unease. They were all aware that her art often mirrored her personal struggles, but how would they respond when confronted with their own reflections? Her mother set down her fork, a simmer of apprehension glinting in her eyes. Is this about what happened years ago? A sharp inhale cut through the conversation. It was a question that demanded confrontation or avoidance. The specter of their past loomed, threatening to fracture the delicate moment into 1,000 irretrievable shards. Lucy's heart thundered as she pressed onward. I want to explore what we never discussed, our past, our wounds. It's time we faced it together. Silence enveloped the table as she felt the tension crescendo. Would they meet her vulnerability with resistance? Or could they embrace this opportunity, galvanizing their connection? Each clock tick echoed in her ears, punctuating the weight of her words. The moment hung perpetually, a strand tightening around their collective heart, as she awaited their response, one that could transform everything or shatter the fragile evening. Would they share their truths, or would past scars remain buried? Suddenly, her sister's voice broke through the silence. I've been waiting for someone to say this. Lucy's pulse quickened like a drumroll, prompting her to lean in. What revelations lay ahead? Would this be the moment that reshaped their family narrative once and for all? Lucy stood on the precipice of her family's long-standing expectations and her burgeoning identity as an artist. The tension that had thickened during the dinner began to dissipate as her sister spoke with unexpected clarity. I've been waiting for someone to say this, she repeated, her eyes alight with a mixture of realization and sympathy. Lucy felt her heart swell with hope. For the first time, the potential for healing hung in the air, ready to be grasped like a long-obscured treasure. You mean you want to talk about our past? Lucy asked, her voice steady yet vulnerable. Her sister nodded earnestly, swallowing back emotions that had long been tucked away. I feel like we've been dancing around this for years, she confessed. We need to address what we've lost, not just what we've accomplished. That statement sparked a timid but growing courage within the family. Lucy's mother joined in, her voice wavering. We've all carried burdens. I wanted to protect you from the pain I experienced, but in doing so, I may have locked us all in a cycle of silence. The admission resonated deeply with Lucy, illuminating the shadows of misunderstanding and fear that had long clouded their interactions. With each testament shared, the family began to peel back the layers of pain and confusion. Lucy's brother echoed the sentiment, revealing that he had felt an intense pressure to uphold the family's legacy, constantly worried that stepping out of line could destabilize the carefully constructed identity they all shared. As the conversation unfolded, Lucy felt a deep sense of accomplishment wash over her. They were navigating their fears together, unearthing hidden truths that once acted as barriers among them. With every vulnerability shared, they each took a step closer to reclaiming their identities, not only her as an artist, but as a family bound by history. We all matter, Lucy reasserted, her voice unwavering, filled with newfound conviction. This is about embracing our individual paths while still honoring our family. I want to celebrate our story, not shy away from it. With an energizing momentum, a new idea formed between them. What if they collaborated in an art piece that honored both their lineage and Lucy's aspirations? A project that would encapsulate their family's legacy of medicinal prestige, but reframe it through the lens of artistic expression. The glow of excitement mingled with the sorrow of their realization. Let us create a mural, Lucy suggested, still riding the high of more heartfelt exchanges. One that tells our story but also paves the way for new ones, our dreams and hopes. With her family nodding in agreement, the initial tension transformed into enthusiasm. The ensuing days passed in a whirlwind of collaborative energy, each family member contributing their own narratives and perspectives. Lucy documented their stories while intertwining them with her artistic voice. It was an exhilarating experience, illuminating warmer memories shadowed by unhealed scars. Their family tensions had stirred the canvas, infusing the artwork with life and depth. Then came the day of the showcase. A few weeks prior, Lucy had gathered her evidence, her family's stories infused with her message of vibrant possibilities, an intersection of their legacy and her artistry. Standing at the venue, she beamed with a solid confidence, clutching an array of sketches each representing a piece of their journey. Her entire family joined her, their eyes filled with pride as they prepared to reveal the mural they had crafted together. The moments that followed were a tapestry of triumph as they shared their story with the community. Each brushstroke drew eyes to their interwoven identities, leading to conversations that stretched far beyond the walls housing their artwork. People came forward to share their own narratives, further instilling Lucy with a sense of purpose. It was validation and recognition of her efforts that transformed her from a woman plagued by family expectations into one celebrated for her authentic voice. As she stood there, her family surrounding her, Lucy breathed in the culmination of growth, achievement, and hand-in-hand transformation. She looked into her father's eyes, finally feeling their barriers dissolving. "You were right," he said with a genuine warmth. This is truly magnificent. We are all in this together. What we've created is a living legacy, but one that redefines our paths," Lucy replied, her heart swelling with pride and fulfillment. Their journey had solidified her confidence as an artist and individual, recognized not only for her talent but also for her role as the bridge between tradition and aspiration. At last, she felt complete in her identity, knowing she could pursue her dreams without sacrificing her family's love and heritage. As the applause from the guests reverberated in her ears, Lucy laughed, tears of joy glistening as she realized this moment would cement itself in both her heart and mind as one of triumph, an unforgettable victory born from courage, connection, and an unwavering belief in authenticity. This was her achievement, claiming her place within her family and her profession simultaneously. A transformation that marked not just an end to an era of silence, but the blossoming of both Lucy as an artist and as a beloved daughter. Now, it is your time to take action. You need to subscribe now to witness the next emotional journey of transformation. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and ensure these incredible stories reach more hearts. Comment below your reactions and theories about Lucy's journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the wisdom of overcoming life's greatest hurdles together.